Hey, I want to give you the lowdown on the keto diet because I've been getting a lot of questions about ketosis, keto dieting, and what the benefits are. So I am not a fan for a number of reasons, and we're just going to talk about the science first because my opinion doesn't really matter. So to be clear, what the keto diet is it's a very high fat diet. It's got moderate amount of protein and very low grams of carbohydrate, probably under 50 grams for sure, probably more like 20 grams of carbohydrate, which is very low. So the discovery of the ketogenic diet happened when it became a legitimate tool for epileptic children to reduce their seizures, those children that didn't respond to medication. So a serendipitous discovery was that it promoted weight loss, and so the weight loss community just really jumped on that. So let's talk about what ketosis is. Ketosis is a survival mechanism, and it's triggered when your body has no food. So it's really a beautiful process, but it was never meant to be used long term. In fact, there is no population in the entire world that survives in ketosis long term. Even Eskimos, who have a very high fat content diet, do not live in ketosis. So I think that's really important to note. So the thing with fat burning and ketosis is it gets confusing because some people think that if you go on a ketogenic diet that you become more efficient at burning fat. But the fact is there's two kinds of fat burning. There's beta oxidation, and there's when we burn our own body fat, which is lipolysis. And so ketosis is when the liver can't burn fuel, and it needs carbohydrates and protein to be able to burn those those ketones. So a ketogenic diet only leads to fat loss when we are in a calorie deficit, which is pretty much the same of any diet. Any diet that we go on, if we're in a calorie deficit, eventually we're going to lose fat. So when in a ketogenic diet, when you overeat on fats, those excess fats just get turned into triglycerides and get stored. So you cannot just eat unlimited fat on a ketogenic diet and not gain weight. You will. In fact, in controlled human studies of a ketogenic diet and a higher carb diet, the people on the higher carb diet actually lost more weight. So there's a lot of unfavorable side effects with a ketogenic diet, including fatigue and diarrhea, muscle cramps, headaches. It can lead to hypothyroidism and impaired athletic performance because we need carbohydrates for energy. And a lot of people seem to think that, or there's been the erroneous statements that cancer patients should be on a ketogenic diet. But the fact is, it's kind of just a theoretical, and I've done a lot of studies, studying myself from doctors that say that it's theoretical and hypothetical to think that cancer cells feed on glucose. So if we starve them on glucose, then cancer cells won't grow. But the fact is that there's studies that show that tumors grow on and metastasize when there's fat present, because I think it's called palmic acid, they grow on that. So it's not necessarily a cancer treatment either. So when we're looking at studies for dieting, we need to look at long-term studies, like 20-year studies, not like 1 and 2 year studies, because long-term studies show that ketogenic eating is not favorable. It's disease promoting. So if if our health is our goal, then what's the point of, weight loss if we're just going to die of cancer, a few years down the road? So on top of the science that is not in favor of ketogenic dieting, and I know I'm going to polarize you here because some of you are getting results on keto, and I'll tell you why, is that it's difficult to cut out an entire macro group, which would be carbohydrate, and live a normal life. It's difficult to maintain fat loss results because unless you're going to just stay on that keto diet for the rest of your life and not introduce carbohydrates again, it's very hard to maintain. And this is the why a lot of people think that, keto is the answer, is because they have immediate fat loss. And the reason for that is because when we eat carbohydrate, for every gram of carbohydrate we eat, our body will hold on to 3 to 4 grams of water. So when we stop eating carbohydrates, we seem to lose weight, but it's actually not weight, it's water weight. Just like when you have kind of a treat meal or you eat extra carbs, it's like, I put on weight. No, you didn't put on weight, you put on water. So when you start a ketogenic diet, you get immediate reinforcement that you are losing fat, but you're not losing fat, you're just losing water weight. And then when you start eating those carbs again, the weight comes back on, which is very discouraging. You might suffer from the keto flu, which is like the symptoms that I discussed, like the diarrhea, the lack of energy, the headaches. You will likely have keto breath because when you're burning ketones, there's a horrible breath that's associated with that. And you really don't learn long-term healthy eating habits that will sustain you lifelong. It's a diet. When you're doing keto dieting, there's very few people that can keep that way of eating long term. So I really don't want to discourage people that are getting results with keto. I just want you to look at the science. And I am on a soapbox regarding keto because I don't feel it's the healthiest choice for you. The way I look at fat loss is that when we get healthy from the inside out, when we repair our metabolism, when we feed our body whole and healthy foods, that's when our body will shed the weight. Because honestly, our body doesn't want to have excess weight. Our knees don't want to have excess weight. Our heart doesn't want to have excess weight. So if we feed the body whole and healthy foods in the right quantities, the right quality food, weight loss becomes a lot easier, and it becomes a lot more enjoyable process whereby you're not starving, you're not suffering, and there's ways that we can do that. And ladies, I have to say that not the majority, but a good number of my clients that have a long history of dieting have really damaged their metabolism. And my goal for them is to do what we call a reverse diet, whereby we start to feed them more and they start losing weight eating more because they're not eating enough. So it's difficult to just randomly start to eat more and think that you're going to lose weight. So you need some support with that. So if you want to discuss fat loss that's going to be long-term and more enjoyable, the process, so that you're going to feel alive while you're doing it, I'll have a link in somewhere, and you can fill out a questionnaire that's going to help us determine if you'll be a good candidate and qualified to work together, because I'm very passionate about healing your metabolism, teaching you how to eat long term so that you feel great. You can eat what your family's eating, and it's not a diet. All right? So that's the lowdown on the keto diet, science-based. I've got some opinions in there as well, but it is based in fact. So reach out to me if you have some more questions. Comment. Like I said, I don't want to discourage you if you're getting results on the keto diet, but I want you to really think about what kind of results do you want? Do you want just the short-term results, or do you want long-term healthy results that you're going to feel great along the way and build your health rather than break it down. All right.